want to get into Donovan McNabb saying that he should be a Hall of Famer. And first of all, I'll just come right out of the gate and say it, which may force me to lose my audience midway through, but whatever, I really don't give a damn. He should be. On what level do we not think that Donovan McNabb should not be an NFL Hall of Famer? First of all, we live in a world now that is completely enamored with statistics. And so when we go and we look back at the stats and he compared himself to a guy like Troy Aikman, he's absolutely correct. The numbers are far and away better than Troy Aikman, who, by the way, had one of the most star-studded teams in NFL history around him. Let's just start with that. If we're going to do the Troy Aikman comparison, then let's go all the way with it, right? So you look at Troy Aikman and you see Jay Novacek. You have Darryl the Moose Johnston. You have Emmitt Smith. You have Michael Irvin. You have Alvin Harper. You got Leon Lett. You had Deion Sanders for a little while. You had Ken Norton. You had, the best offensive line in all the NFL. Come on. How many Hall of Famers were on that one football team alone? Then, of course, to top it all off, your head coach is Jimmy Johnson for your first couple of Super Bowls. And as much as Troy Aikman and some of the other players on that team claim that Barry Switzer was not the coach that they really needed and that they all were still wanting Jimmy Johnson to be there, they still were so talented that they won a Super Bowl with a coach that they claimed that they really didn't even like. Come on. So when you look at how good that football team was, then you go and you look at some of the guys that were around Donovan McNabb, right? Deuce Staley, Brian Westbrook. How many receivers can you name before Terrell Owens? Then when they finally did get Deshaun Jackson, they decided it was time to let him go when he went and played with Washington before his last stop in Minnesota, if I remember correctly. So when you look at Donovan McNabb and really what he did, he carried that football team offensively. Defensively, nobody's going to dispute that McNabb had a phenomenal defense with, Brian Dawkins and Douglas and, that 3-4 defense and the way that they blitz all over the place. That was a defense that any quarterback in the world would probably almost give their throwing arm for. You know what I'm saying? But offensively, their offensive line wasn't that great. Now, the big knock on McNabb was, and I'm going to tell you what, I partially concede to this, was in big moments, he couldn't get it done. I remember very vividly when he's at Syracuse, he'd freak out and he'd start puking. In the Super Bowl, he freaked out. He started puking. He got off to slow starts. He would have guys wide open at the beginning of football games and couldn't find his rhythm right away. Those things I'll concede to. But you don't go to 5 consecutive NFC championship games because you're a terrible quarterback. You damn sure don't make it to a Super Bowl because you're a terrible quarterback. And you don't have the NFC basically run through your town in some capacity because you're not a good quarterback. Andy Reid is a phenomenal coach, and of course the knock on Reid was then and still is he can't get teams over the hump, which is something that I've already talked about with Dwayne Casey. So when you look at the situation as a whole, we can just first of all begin with that. Then of course we can go into the other part of this. Donovan McNabb was booed when he got drafted. They didn't want him. But you're going to tell me that there's another quarterback that you would have rather have had with those football teams during that time frame, with his athleticism, with his ability to create plays. Me as a Broncos fan, I could tell you right now, I wanted Denver to draft Donovan McNabb. I felt like if there was anybody who was going to succeed John Elway and be the guy to continuously keep us winning games and get us back to a Super Bowl, it was going to be Donovan McNabb. And really, when you think about it, how many years did it take after John Elway left for Denver to get back to a Super Bowl? Because his last year was, 99? And they didn't go back until Super Bowl 50, which was 2015. 16 years later, and they had how many quarterbacks in the meantime? You had Jake Plummer, got walloped in the AFC Championship game. You had Jay Cutler, couldn't get you to where you wanted to go. Very good regular season quarterback, but continuously was kind of hurt, even though we had phenomenal arm strength and pretty good athleticism. Still wasn't able to get Denver to that next level. Then, of course, you had Brian Greasy. You had Bubby Brister. I mean, come on. When you really look at Trevor Siemian, when you look at Denver and where they could have been with a guy like Donovan McNabb, I really believe that the team that was around him, they could have made a legit run during his prime. But it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it now. And he was with Philly. And I'm telling you, Donovan McNabb was a Hall of Fame player. Given what he had to work with, he did a lot more with a lot less. Look, you put John Elway, you put Donovan McNabb, you put, Steve Young and a lot of these quarterbacks in with a team like what a Joe Montana had, in with a team like what a Troy Aikman had. Troy Aikman hates the term game manager because of what he had. And look, let's be fair. Aikman didn't have to throw the football that often because he had such a good running game with Emmitt Smith. But when he did, he had an unlimited amount of targets to throw to. And, of course, a big part of that was Jimmy Johnson understanding how to use his guys and putting guys like Novacek and some of the others in really good situations. But when you look at some of the plays that Michael Irvin made, I mean, come on, Alvin Harper was very sought after when he became a free agent. And poor Philadelphia, the first play that he makes is he jumps up, comes down with it, and then he gets hurt. But even then, that tells you right there the athletic capability of an Alvin Harper, who was going to be the number one receiver to any team that he went to after that. Imagine what a Warren Moon could have done with that football team of the Dallas Cowboys back then. I mean, there are a lot of people, including myself, believe that you could have plugged and played just about anybody back there, and they would have been successful. Now, I'm not saying that Troy Aikman wasn't a good quarterback, but unfortunately, I don't think that we'll ever really know what he was truly capable of without a huge roster around him. Donovan McNabb to the Hall of Fame, the last thing I'll go with it is this, is it's not always going to be right away. It's not always going to be first ballot. You've always got to look at who you're up against, and some guys have been waiting in the wings to get their due. Steve Atwater, Shannon Sharp had to wait for a long time. There's just a point in the process where you have to look at it and go, it may just not be your time yet. And he's not the first guy to campaign for his own Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, Corey Dillon has done it. Terrell Owens has done it, And then, of course, when Terrell Owens did it, he decided to do his own thing, But the point is that he's not the first person to do it. So let's stop pretending that he is, because he's not. Period. Guys, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Don't forget, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook and Instagram as well. And, as always, don't you dare touch that dial.